Populist revolution. Is that what Americans voted for when they elected Donald Trump 2 years ago, or something else? He's definitely rejected globalism in favor of American nationalism. Many people say his policies have helped provide for more jobs for American workers. So is this president a populist or a pragmatist? Will the populist wave of the 2016 presidential election carry into the upcoming midterm election? Well, joining us is Steve Hilton. He's host of the Fox News program, The Next Revolution, and author of the newly released book, Positive Populism. Steve, thanks for joining us. First, in your book, you talked about the elite of both political parties, how they were shocked when Trump won. So what didn't they get about the populist wave that swept Donald Trump into the White House?
I think the main thing that was missed was the fact that for many decades now, irrespective of who has won actual elections, you've had the same policy agenda driven forward, which was basically enthusiastic about globalization, automation in the economy, centralization of government, and uncontrolled immigration. And all those things benefited the people at the top. They did really well out of it. So their lives were great. And that's why I think they missed it. What they didn't see was that working Americans were losing out. And the people who actually do the hard work and hope to benefit, they were missing out. And that had been going on for a long time. And they missed that. And therefore, they didn't understand just how angry people had gotten about the fact that whether they voted Republican or Democrat, nothing ever seemed to change. The rich got richer and their lives seemed to get worse.
Well, I think some people would say Trump is an elitist himself. After all, he is a billionaire. So how is he different, Steve, from other wealthy, powerful people?
I think that there's a really important difference. I'm so glad you asked that question because it goes to the heart of this. There's a difference between the elite and elitism. Elitism is, in my view, an ideology of the kind of policies I was explaining, the globalism and so on. It's a policy agenda, elitism, that benefits the elite. You can be in the elite, a member of it, and reject elitism. I frankly would put myself in that same position too. Now, I have a show on Fox News. I think that puts me firmly in the elite. But I care about this positive populist agenda, which I think President Trump just was at the beginning of this movement. And what I'm trying to do with my book is say, okay, how do we now take that revolution, that populist revolution that was expressed in the 2016 election and turn it into real lasting change, a real movement for change with positive ideas for how to rebuild economic security and family and community in America. Those are the things I think are at the heart of this is people's economic security, family and community. And I think that's what positive populism for me is all about.
And it isn't just here. It's in Great Britain. Donald Trump supported, and I'm sure he would even say predicted, the positive vote for Britain to leave the European Union, Brexit. Now there's a push by some Brits to vote on Brexit again. Is the populist movement there fizzling out?
Well, it's a really interesting what's going on, and it really mirrors what's happening here too, in the sense that the people who have had power for so long, the people in the elitists, if you like, who are in positions of power, not just the politicians, but the permanent bureaucracy, what we've now started to call the deep state, big corporations who are very closely connected. They hated the fact that they lost power in 2016, both in the presidential election here, but also in terms of the Brexit vote, where you had all of the alliance of the elitists against Brexit, but it went through anyway. Now they're trying to get that power back. In the UK, they're trying to undermine Brexit and overturn that result. And we see here in America, they're doing exactly the same thing. You see it with all the reporting of the way that the people around Donald Trump and throughout the bureaucracy trying to undermine and sabotage his agenda. That anonymous op-ed in the New York Times. And just now with Rod Rosenstein, recently, one after another, almost daily, you're seeing evidence of the elitists trying to undermine that result. Now, the difference is that here you've got someone at the top, Donald Trump, who really believes in it and is trying to push it through. Whereas in the UK, Prime Minister Theresa May, remember, was against Brexit. She's now leading a government that's trying to make it happen, but she actually campaigned against it. So the reason it may be somewhat fizzling out is that you don't have that strong populist movement pushing it forward.
Well, so then what do you think is going to happen in the UK and then here, back across the pond, this populist wave that swept Trump into office? We're going to see the push continue in the upcoming midterm, or is it fizzling out both in the UK and here?
No, I don't think it's fizzling out here, because if the people who voted for Donald Trump, and also remember that populism is not just a phenomenon on the right, you see it also on the left with Bernie Sanders, support for him in the 2016 campaign. And so I think working Americans generally want really big change. Now, the reason I've written this book, Positive Populism, is to contribute to the growth of a movement that lasts beyond one election cycle, even beyond one presidential campaign and one presidency. And so you get people who understand what it means to have a policy agenda that is pro-worker, pro-family, and pro-community. And people are elected all throughout our system to push those ideas forward. That's exactly what I'm hoping to happen, that this populist revolution, that this spark that happened, then actually turns into a lasting movement for the long term.
Steve Hilton, we love your show on Fox News. You're a host and author of the book Positive Populism. We thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.